Williams, 9 games without a pick, 0-9 in the games. Does it mean he's not taking risks or chances? What do you make of it?
I mean, I think in some ways we're kind of overthinking it. I don't know if there's, sure, you want to make mistakes. That's fine. That's what practice is for. That's what kind of the rest of this year is for.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying I want him to go out there and throw interceptions. If he's playing clean football and he's not missing wide open guys down the field, I'm fine with that. Don't give it away just for fun, just to practice. It's not scout team reps. These are real live reps that are only going to help his development, and then that learning curve is going to get cut down because he's going to have all this banked in his pocket. Every single play he gets, one more play call, one more scramble drill, whatever it is, every completion, that stuff matters. And he's just stacking good play after good play, despite all the chaos and everything going on, knowing there's going to be coaching turnover. That's going to pay dividends. That's just compounded interest, I guess, and sweat equity. That's what you want over a long period of time. He'll look back on this year when they're at the 14-win mark, owning the division in a couple years potentially. Then he'll look back and go, man, I remember when it was really hard. I'm glad I focused. I'm glad I kept my head down. I'm glad I kept my mouth shut and just played hard.
I know you don't do AFC games, but I want...
Okay. The Bears are in the NFC. So, listen. I think what Sanchez said off the top is really the best thing that we could say about Caleb at this point. Now we're hunting. We're hunting for reasons to say Caleb is great, Caleb is bad, Caleb is a bust, Caleb is this, Caleb is that. And it comes with the territory. I don't feel bad by any stretch of the imagination. That's what the money's for. That's why you get paid. That's why you get all the fortune and fame, and you get to live in it. Reaches his potential, and this is the only contract he ever gets. He still has made more money than 99.9% of the world out there. And so this does come with the territory of this overthinking. That's what sports talk and all of that stuff in the first place is. It's just overthinking everything. I always laugh when I see certain comments when people will say, "Who cares what so and so thinks?" It doesn't matter what anyone has to say. We just have to wait for the game. Or, this is all well and good, but we'll find out Sunday. And it's like, yeah, I know. I get it. Yes. Technically nothing any of us says, actually matters, right? It actually does not. But that's kind of the point. The point is to have these conversations, to have fun with it, that's why I always say, get in discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately let's have some fun. When I say that, I mean it sincerely. That's literally the whole point of it all. And so I totally get it, but I do agree with that whole kind of speech. I still 100% agree with Mark. At this point, I come across a Caleb video and I almost pause to be like, should I keep doing this? Do I want to keep making these Caleb Williams videos? And I'm going to, because it's just week to week, right? I'm going to talk when I come across content like this, but it does, right? It is kind of the definition of beating a dead horse, because there's just nothing to figure out right now anymore. There's really not, right? You can even see at the bottom, does he need to play more aggressive? Let's say that was the answer. Let's say the answer was actually yes, he needs to play more aggressive. It doesn't matter. It means nothing. It really means nothing. It means absolutely nothing at this point. And that's honestly what I kind of keep saying in all my videos. Anything that to do with Caleb. None of this matters anymore. None of it matters. We can constantly find something wrong with every quarterback at this point. Every quarterback out there. Whether it's Lamar, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Caleb. So if we are going to keep going back and forth on Caleb, we're going to find stuff. We're going to find the pros and the cons of him. Seek and you shall find. I mean, it's really that straightforward. But I just wish, and again, this is the problem more than anything. It's that we're seeing quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels have wild success. Truly wild success. And last year we saw CJ Stroud have wild success. And I know he wasn't, I know we've even seen Brock Purdy And again, I know those aren't similar scenarios necessarily, and even the same level of expectations on those quarterbacks, but pretty much every single year these days, we see a first-year starter or a rookie quarterback like come out the gate looking pretty good, playing pretty well, ripping off some wins. And so we expect that now for any quarterback that's going to have really high expectations. I mean, that seems to be the most common comment on every single Caleb Williams video that I do, is always like, he was supposed to be the chosen one. Where is he? If he was really that good, he would be better now. And that's what I keep trying to my best to dispel, is that he can still be a generational talent. It doesn't mean that he needs to show it right now. Yes, a lot of people thought he would. I thought he would be better than he is right now, but I also thought the situation that he was going into was better. If you told me Caleb Williams was going to go into the season and they were going to fire his OC and then like a couple weeks later fire his head coach, I would immediately, before knowing anything else, I would immediately be like, Caleb's not going to have a good season. He's not going to have a good season. I mean, it's just a guarantee. It's a guarantee. Then people are like, well, he got them fired. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. 100%. Could his play potentially? Sure. I think it's just too tall of a task. It's just too tall of a task. And I think just like have so many people, anyone who's been around little kids and have actually seen them grow up, whether it's coaches, whether it's kids that you're coaching, whether it's just like kind of basic, like, I have a 5-year-old son and now he's 10, like even something basic like that. Whoever starts off the strongest doesn't necessarily end the strongest. You see that again and again and again. You know how many times you're in like high school or college or something, and the freshman who's like the big stud, who's like, big time, steps in there into the arena? I mean, so many times he does not graduate at the top. I mean, you just see it so many times. So many times. Endless times. So, it's not kind of like what Sanchez was talking about, where we're just kind of like, here, that is the problem when we got to this point in the season with Caleb, where the Chicago Bears have no playoff hopes. So there's just nothing to talk about. There's no big moments in a game that actually even matters. Like, even if he comes back from behind against the Seahawks, like, we could talk about it. He leads them back from behind down 10 with 5 minutes to go. Like, we could talk about it and it'll be cool. And we could be like, see, he's got the clutch gene and this or that. But it still just won't hit as hard because we know it fundamentally doesn't matter. Kind of like how Bryce Young has kind of led a few interesting, he's played a few interesting games, and people aren't jumping on that and being like, see, he's the number 1 overall pick. He was always meant to be this guy. Like, no one's really doing that. And so I think when you have a quarterback like this on a team like this, nobody knows what to do except for kind of hyper focus on the individual quarterback and kind of be like, well, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And the problem is he's given us plenty to work with, because he's given us a whole basket of like pretty nice moments, pretty bad moments. And then again, even something like a streak like this where 0 interceptions, people are kind of like, well, is this a bad thing? Is he not being aggressive enough? And Colin's getting that probably from Nick Wright, who kept pushing that again and again and again. Although now he's trying to push it as a positive. Before he was saying it was a negative, and now he's saying it's a positive. And it's like, you can't make up your mind, can you? You can't make up your mind. But yeah, at this point, I just don't feel as though Caleb is supported enough in even within the game itself, to really ever feel comfortable. They talk about this with actually little kids. This will be my last point, is that little kids take chances when their parents are actually like in the room with them, when they can see their parents with their eyes, and how much that actually matters, because it allows them to be more free and to develop and actually like become healthier. People think like, oh no, you have to like give your kids away, kind of like send them to school, daycare, whatever it may be, right? Like let them be more independent. And that's actually what I had thought for a long time. But then it really does make sense. It's like when you know your parents are there, like they're your security blanket, they're your safety blanket, they're right there. You're so much more willing to kind of take those chances. You feel protected if something goes wrong, and you do that intuitively. You're not like thinking through this when you're 4 years old. And it is very similar with great coaches, with just supportive coaches. When you feel like you're on an island and you have no coach, it's kind of like you gotta have to just figure it out yourself. And then kind of who knows what's happening. You might get too tight, you might get too loose. It really kind of depends on the situation and the person. If you have someone that's too strict, too intense, it makes you feel like you are about to like kind of pop, which I've talked about playing for coaches like that in the past. It's very hard to evolve and grow. But then when you have that coach who really does support you, like you feel comfortable taking chances. And I'm not saying that he's not taking chances, and that's not why he's throwing interceptions. When I mean take chances, I just mean in any aspect of your game, quite frankly. I don't mean like trying to push the ball down the field or make like a tight window throw. I just mean in general. You just feel more comfortable playing ball, right? And you feel also that you have the answers. If something does go wrong, you're able to go to the sidelines and they're able to tell you like pretty quickly, this is what happened. This is what happened. And when you don't have that, it's just too much. It's just too much. And that's just really what it gets boiled down to. That's why for these last couple of weeks of any of the Caleb content, like, unless something very specific or very interesting happens, like I'm just going to try to really figure out how best to kind of unpack what the games go. Because again, my answer is just going to kind of remain the same, where it's just that at this point, it's just such a tall task to ask of him that I just, if he had a game in that 9-game losing streak, if he had an interception every single game, I would be giving the same answer. Like that's the reality of it for me. Like the outcome itself, it just no longer matters to me. His quality of play right now no longer matters to me. The only thing that matters to me is actually his attitude. Because that is really something that I would hope that he should be able to maintain in this type of environment. Or at least I'm kind of really looking to see how he navigates those waters. I'd even still give him, some grace for him to kind of have like a bad soundbite or a bad moment here and there. Because again, this season has been an absolute disaster. And it's not easy to be perfect in a disaster. I guarantee you have not been perfect in a disaster. And this season has been an absolute disaster. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Caleb? Do you think we are kind of overthinking kind of how this season has, gone for him, and kind of the whole thing with the interceptions and need to be more aggressive or not aggressive? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.